What's up, people? I am back for another video, and for sure, I am going to be doing two videos. This is a video I was supposed to do yesterday, and I'm going to do the wolf list tomorrow because I think that works better for like a weekend video. I actually got a couple things planned. So, tomorrow, I am probably going to be watching the Neverland Nightmare movie, which is the horror Peter Pan movie. So, I will either watch that tonight or tomorrow. I'll be between that, and then I'll probably review that Sunday, and then Saturday I'll do the wolf list. But I got it made. But today, or right now, I'm going to be reviewing a movie called Bad Moon, which is a first time watch for me. I just saw it come up because I was looking up werewolf movies for the video, and I had never seen this one. I don't think I've ever heard of it. Muriel Hemingway's in it. She's probably like the only real big name in it. Like outside, because like a lot of the other cast are just kind of smaller. But the premise is a mom lives in this isolated cabin by herself, but her brother, who you see earlier in the film, gets attacked by a werewolf, is a werewolf. And I actually love the little connection he has with the dog because that's something I've never actually seen explored in a werewolf film. Like a werewolf, in a way, a werewolf would have a little bit of an attachment to the family dog because there is a bit of attachment between wolves and dogs. So that's something I've never actually seen explored. And I'm gonna say it. This film has a great werewolf design. I actually really dig it. I love how practical it looks. It actually looks like a werewolf, what I wanted to be a humanoid wolf. And there were some solid kills in this movie. A lot of randoms. It's like a lot of random people getting killed. And there's a guy, because earlier in the movie, I'm assuming he's some kind of like phony salesman, was trying to sell something to because he's trying to sell, I think he's trying to buy her house or something, and then he threatens to sue because a dog attacked him. So, but there's a scene he comes back later. Granted, this is a bit of a jump. This is the only thing that it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't know why all of a sudden wants to kill the dog now. It seems like it's a bit of a leap. Because the guy just was a bit of a dick, but it didn't seem like, oh, he's going to try to kill the dog. Granted, if you like seeing people like who try to hurt animals get killed, there is a scene for you where he tries to kill that family dog and then he runs into the werewolf. Or Ted, who's the brother. But and the final act's pretty good. You have a good kid actor in it who plays the son of the mom, and I love how isolated it is. Like, there's not a lot of side characters because they're in the middle of nowhere. They're in these woods, and yeah, it's a very underrated werewolf film. It's one that like a lot of people didn't talk about. I didn't even know it existed till like now or this week or last week. But I figured why not check it out? And I haven't done a review at all this week, so why not that be my review? And then, like I mentioned, later in the evening or early tomorrow, but I'm gonna try to do it tonight. We will do oh, actually no, yeah, I have another review tonight. We're gonna be reviewing Terminator Dirt Fate. Oh man, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I am not looking forward to watching that shit. I'm really not. I'm not, bro. But I will say I think it will make for a fun video because you're gonna see me. I'm not gonna lie, guys. You're gonna see me pretty fucking pissed off because even to this day that movie still pisses me off. So why not? I figured I'll suffer for y'all to make a good video. So I'll do that tonight, and then tomorrow I'll do the wolf list. I'll actually try to do it during the day, but because tomorrow's Saturday night's main event, and I got a podcast tomorrow. So subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. But yeah, so I might. That's why I might just do the wolf list because I don't know if I'll be able to do two videos. But if I could somehow manage it, yeah, I'll try to do the wolf list a little early, and then in the evening maybe we'll do Neverland Nightmare review. But if not, I'll probably just review that on Saturday, on Sunday, if anything. And then Flight Risk, like I said, I'm not rushing to watch, so I can probably even review that next week. That's probably more likely what I'm gonna do. So, but anyway, that's the schedule for the rest of the week. Like I mentioned, I will be doing a stream, Pin Down Podcast stream. I'll be on there tomorrow. Subscribe to it. But other than that, let's get into Bad Moon. Spoil one thing, dog doesn't die. So you're kind of worried of like, and I don't blame you. I know there's some. I know people like that just don't in general like seeing animals get harmed in movies. Nothing wrong with that. I will say, yeah, that doesn't happen in this. Dog gets a little hurt, like, because there is a scene where he does fight the werewolf, so he does get bloodied a little bit, but dog doesn't die though. So the movie starts. We meet Ted, who's in Nepal for a job. He's hooking up with his girlfriend Marie, kind of like traditionally, they're in the bed. The wolf breaks in, ends up scratching Ted, but it kills Marjorie. He manages to grab a gun, and I'm assuming the movie doesn't really explain, but I'm assuming the shotgun had silver bullets because when he shot it, the wolf's head exploded. Which, good practical effects for the explosion scene. I'm gonna say it, man. There's some really good practical effects all around in this movie. Not just for the wolf either. Like, even some of the kills, like a lot of the blood splatter, like, like they really put a lot of work into the practical stuff in this movie. Which I love. I love good practical effects. That's the one thing, like I was even saying in my Werewolves review, that's like the only good thing about that film is I love the practical effects, but everything else. Anyway. So I just assumed that the shotgun had silver bullets because, or they're just not going with that lore in this. Could be either or, maybe just this one, the wolves just can get shot by anything. I just assumed, yeah, maybe the gun had silver bullets in it, and that's how he was able to kill it. But he manages to kill it, and you actually get a pretty good look at it, because obviously it's the wolf design that they're going to use later for Ted. And then, so this is where you meet his sister. Because initially Ted moves into the woods because he's trying to be isolated. The real reason is because he knows he's a werewolf. And that's the one thing I've always loved about werewolf films. Because a lot of the time, werewolves, yeah, they're like, I guess, the antagonist, but I wouldn't inherently say they're evil. Like, not like vampires. Vampires generally, most lore, they usually turn evil. Sometimes they can be a good person at first and then turn, but werewolves is more interesting because, yeah, they're not inherently evil. They're usually just normal people that are inflicted with this, you can almost call it an infection or sickness. And that's why Ted moved to the woods, because he knew he was a werewolf. He's trying not to hurt people. And this is where you meet Janet and his nephew Brett, who we see earlier. Some guy is trying to, I think he's trying to sell her shit. Hold on, let me trying to find a scene. Just looking really quick. Oh, okay. It was a salesman. I was wondering what that guy was. A salesman trying to sell her something, but the dog was basically just really aggressive and just attacks him. But he tries to make it seem like the dog bit him, and it didn't. It clearly didn't bite him. It just kind of knocked him down. So you do see that salesman, and his sister turns out Janet. She's a lawyer. She scares him off, but I'll just spoil it. I'll just go ahead because it seems a little bit later anyway, where he tries to go back, and the dog's name is Thor. Okay, that's what the dog's name was. Tries to kill Thor, which, I'll be honest, that was the only thing about the movie that was a little, don't get me wrong, I'm happy the guy got killed. It's just the way we got there. I'm that seemed like that was a big leap. Yeah, he got embarrassed, but it didn't seem like he was the kind of crazy that was I'm gonna come back and kill your dog, motherfucker. It seemed a little much, but I get it. I'm not gonna complain. Attempted dog killer gets killed. He gets his throat slit. Cool. But going back to Ted. So Ted lies about what happened to his sister. And throughout the movie, Thor, I'm assuming, senses there's something up with Ted. Probably senses he's a werewolf. Because he and Ted have these looks where they know there's like this connection. Because I think, and I actually have always I want more werewolf movies to explore this. And maybe there are, I just don't know about them. But the idea that your dog might know you're a werewolf. Because, obviously it can sense. And it kind of makes sense too. Because generally dogs have like a connection to each other because they know their dogs. Same thing with wolves to an extent. So it would make sense with a werewolf even that kind of connection could still happen. It's like a little bond almost. It's like a certain bond. And then later that night, that's when the dog senses something. I think Thor's like they're out in the woods, and he senses, he ends up smelling a scent, finds, and he sees Ted now in werewolf form, um, handcuffed to a tree. The only thing is they don't really explain how he's handcuffed to a tree, but yeah. And then that night, a hunter a hiker is killed. You actually see it, like, because he's like hiking, doing something in the woods. I think he's like probably a guy who's doing a job. It looked like he's doing some kind of job in the woods, and he keeps hearing roars. And I'm assuming the roar is just to draw him out because once he gets to the tree, the werewolf's in the tree, which I actually thought was unique. He climbs down, grabs him by the head, and you see him grab him up. And then the next morning, I'm thinking Janet or it's Brett, one of the two, are walking with the dog in the woods, and Thor senses something, and he finds that person who was killed the night before. They find his body. You just see like a little bit of his chest, bunch of body parts. Like, they didn't hold back on the gore in this. It's not uber gory, but the gore moments are there though, and I do love how practical everything looks. And actually, I think another thing, I love the aesthetic of this movie. This, like, it's not overly flashy. I love that they're isolated, this family that just lives near the woods. And you actually have a good kid actor in this. Like, I never once felt like Brett was annoying. Because there's some movies where you have kid actors, and I'm just going to say it, they're usually not good. And they're, if anything, I find them more annoying part of the movie. But I will say I did like that they didn't do that in this. The kid actor was pretty decent. Granted, he didn't have a lot of scenes, though. I will say that it was definitely more focused on. It's more. I almost feel like Ted was a bit of the main character, and slowly throughout the movie, Thor starts becoming far more hostile to Ted because he knows Ted's a werewolf. Which I'm going to say it again. I really love how interesting that is. Like, because it makes sense that a dog would probably sense you're a werewolf. And at that point, he probably sees you as a threat to the family because it's a dog, family dog. Like, there's a scene where this is before, I guess they have to take Thor out of the house for a second, where Thor just gets really hostile to Ted to the point it even bites him because he knows Ted's a werewolf. And Janet wants to go back to Seattle and wants Ted to go with her, but he declines, and obviously he wants them gone, and he wants them to leave before sunset. And that's what I do like, is he knows what's happening to him, because there's even a scene where Brett goes into his trailer and is like looking at a book, and you see a picture of a werewolf. So I'm assuming he knows he's a werewolf, but he doesn't want to harm his family, and that's what I love. About some werewolf stories. Not all do this. Like, obviously, dog soldiers, the werewolves are generally just aggressive, and they're the antagonist of the movie. Where they're just trying to kill the prey. But I like the Wolf Man, I can even throw in there both versions, the original and the 2010 one, not the new one. Where, actually, to an extent, even the new one does have this. where you know you're a werewolf, but you don't you want to be away from people. Even Buffy the Vampire Slayer explores this with Oz. Is when you know you're a werewolf, but you want to be away from people because you don't want to potentially hurt them. Because yeah, I might be normal majority of the year, but when it's a full moon, just that 1% chance goes bad. I don't want to harm my family. So that's why Ted is like, bro, you guys gotta go. But obviously they refuse. Um, and so his sister does kind of basically force him to stay permanently. Um, um, he tells her to stay wary of Thor. He basically is trying to make it seem like Thor's the one doing the attacks, or says it's the wolf, but clearly is trying to imply it's Thor. Because I think he's trying to get rid of Thor because he knows Thor knows basically Thor knows what he is at this point. Later that night, that asshole salesman from earlier comes back, like I mentioned, gets killed pretty brutally, gets his throat slit. Yeah. Um. There's another scene where I think this is a scene before that scene I talked about, where you see Ted now full on wolf form. Looks like I think he knows he's probably trying to kill Thor to get rid of him. Um, but starts trying to attack Thor. So him and Thor do get in a little bit of a fight, which is a little bit hint later because they're gonna get in a fight later on. But Janet turns on the lights because she hears the commotion, and Ted runs off. And yeah, there's a scene with the sheriff and questions her about it and tells him about the salesman and finds that he found his body. And because of the placement of the body, because it's basically near Thor's, because the sheriff at this point thinks Thor's doing the attacks, which, to be honest, make no sense. I'm sorry. I get it. You gotta make cops kind of dumb as fuck in these movies, but that's too dumb. There's no way a sheriff would think a dog did that attack. The dude's throat was cut. What dog can cut your fucking throat? And like, and it's not like because you see it. Ted, when he's in wolf form, scratches his throat, so cuts it. Essentially, is the equivalent like he cut it with a knife, right? It wouldn't make sense. A dog couldn't fucking do that to your throat. Even though, yeah, it's a German Shepherd, so Thor is a big dog. Not enough to fucking slit your throat. So, yeah. So, Ted basically plays into Thor being the attacker, and that's when we do get that scene of Thor biting him, but that's when he's sent to the pound. Brett, obviously is not happy about it. And this is where Ted starts becoming kind of hostile to the family. I mean, it makes sense because when you more and more become a werewolf in some lore, you even in human form, you become much more like aggressive, just naturally. Later that night, Brett decides to break out and try to break Thor out of the pound, which this scene's a bit ridiculous. I'll just go into it right now before I get into, I guess, the final act. Or I guess it's during the final act, but I'll just focus on the other part of the final act. But really quick. Brett breaks into the pound somehow. He just gets in. And I get, smart kid. I don't know how Brett's able to free the dog. And then he gets in, somehow gets in through the gate, like I guess the front gate. I mean, I get it. There's still people there, but come on, man. You're telling me there's not people there wouldn't be like a guard watching the dogs? I don't know if like I get it, it's a small town, but come on, man. Like, there's some stuff, yeah, I could like turn off my fucking like brain a little bit and not like overthink it. But this part was a bit much. And then he breaks the dog out. Like not even breaks it out. Like literally the gate's just open. He manages to get the gate open, the dog comes out. Like how? They did not lock this shit out. He didn't have like those big fucking uh door cutter or gate cutters. Like he didn't have that. No, he didn't have that shit. And I'll admit it was fun seeing the dog like climb the car to get out of the gate. So that was cool. Then the dog runs home, and this is where now I'll go back to where we get started the final act, where um um sorry, I forgot the mom's name for a second. Um, fucking Janet. Sorry, I don't know why I forgot her name for a second. Janet confronts Ted, and this is where Ted tells her the truth, and he's like even telling her, "Hey, I told you to leave. This is why." And he starts slowly transforming. And I'm not gonna lie, the transformation seems actually cool to see. Obviously, you could tell it was a little rushed. They probably didn't have a lot of budget, so they couldn't go too into like an elaborate transformation like they did, let's say, in American Werewolf in London or even in Howling. Um, so it's fine. Like it was still a good transformation. Ted chases her into the house and confronts Janet. Janet try and Janet's about to get attacked. This is when Thor now runs back. This is after he had just been broken out. Runs into the house. We get a pretty brutal fight. I wasn't expecting this fight to be as brutal as I thought it was going to be between Thor and Ted. And yeah, Thor he wins theoretically and he survives. It's just yeah, he takes some lashing though. Like he ends up getting a little bit of blood. Obviously they're biting each other, scratching at each other. Then Janet well, initially I think like Ted had knocked Thor off of him because that's when Brett runs in, and then Ted gets a hold of Brett, and then that's when Mama Janet goes into Mama Bear mode, because there's a scene she grabs a gun. So I'm assuming in this universe, maybe it isn't just silver bullets. Maybe that whole thing isn't in this because it seems like guns just generally do work, which I'm okay with. Not every werewolf thing needs to always be a silver bullet. I'm okay if you want to change that occasionally. Because yeah, in this, because the mom, they don't really say that the gun has silver bullets in it. Because the bullets are still working, so like it's hurting Ted, but obviously she runs out of bullets, and that's when Thor knocks him through the window. Um, and they end up both getting kind of severely hurt from that fight. And now, because it's near near sunlight, sunset, or sunrise. Sorry, not sunset. Sunrise. It's nearly sunrise. So Ted runs into the woods, and Thor follows them. And now it's morning, and Ted now like all covered in injuries. Kind of like that moment where you generally have in some werewolf films, even like the original, where they goad somebody to kill them and just finish it, so I don't have to deal with this affliction anymore. Basically, yeah, Thor kills him. They don't show it; you just see Thor getting ready to do it. Um, then Janet has a nightmare that Thor ends up turning into a werewolf, which that's actually never even been explored. If a dog turns into a werewolf, I don't think it needs to be explored. It wouldn't make sense. It'd be like it's a dog already. But yeah, the whole point of a werewolf, the interesting thing about a werewolf, it was a human that turns into an animal. It'd be redundant to have an animal just turn into an even more of an animal. You know what I mean? So, but it was still a freaky nightmare. But Janet apologizes to Brett about what happened to Thor, and then the family just kind of heals, and yeah, that's the end of the movie. This is a good fucking movie, man. I've never heard of this one, but this is gonna be one I'm definitely adding to my werewolf watch. I know I just watched it, so it might be a little recency bias, but I might add this to the list, like make it number 7 or something. because I actually do like this movie. I like the isolated aspect. I thought Muriel Hemingway did a good job as Janet. Ted was good because it's not like he was a straight up bad guy. It was the affliction. There was even moments he was trying to tell his family to leave so they don't have to see him like this, but they refused. Um, Solid kills. I really dug the werewolf design. I loved how practical it looked. This whole movie was just practical, and yeah, I definitely recommend it if you've never seen it. It's a interesting take on a werewolf film. It's a different type of werewolf film too. Not fully different, but like they don't acknowledge the silver bullet lore because there's even a scene, or like I mentioned, where the mom shoots the werewolf or shooting Ted as a werewolf, and it's still bullets are still hitting him and working because usually it's a silver bullet. They don't know because even in the scene earlier, maybe he didn't have a silver bullet when Ted shot the werewolf earlier. It could have just been in this world, werewolves just are normal bullets getting affected. But yeah, overall, man, I like this movie. If I were to rate this out of 10, I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10, honest. I really like it, man. This is going to be added for sure to the werewolf movie list. Because I'm kind of mad that I didn't even know about this movie. This is one that I think more people need to know about. Yeah. So, that's all I could really say. Solid film. Um, Later tonight, I'm going to try to do is my review for Dirt Fate, and it's gonna be a rant. It's not gonna be a review. I'm gonna be roasting the fuck out of this movie. And you already got a little bit of a taste on Monday when I did the screenwriter article, but I'm gonna go full on into detail. This movie, I'm these days, man. I find myself hating it more than I even did the sequel trilogy because y'all know I don't care about Star Wars like I used to. So the sequel trilogy's still mad, and it still makes me mad, and I still fucking hate those movies. But Dirt Fate really hit me different. I was so fucking mad, man. So you're gonna see me pretty pissed in this review tonight. But yeah, so I'll be doing that. Tomorrow I'll be doing the werewolf list. Now I guess it's gonna be a top 7. It was a top 6, but this will be 7 now because I'm gonna include this movie, Bad Moon. But other than that, guys, subscribe to Pin Down. I'll be over there live tomorrow, before Saturday night's main event. I can also say Spotify link will be there for Pin Down in the description. But other than that, guys, this is a solid werewolf film. That's probably what I'm gonna title the video. Just keep it simple. But other than that, guys, I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Yeah. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all later. Pin Down links in the description.